Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. My name is Jeff Speare with Ironside Group. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Ashwin Ratan, who was VP of Technology at Burn Boot Camp during a recent effort that we're going to talk about today. Good morning, Ashwin.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you. I appreciate you guys taking the time out for me, and thank you for welcoming me on your program.
Always a pleasure to talk to you. Wanted to start by talking about sort of where things were at the beginning. So, how would you describe Burn Boot Camp's data situation around mid to late 2022?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think even before we get into that, I think it's the way I look at it is, we've been in a relationship with Ironside for nearly over 2 years now, and we appreciate all the hard work you guys have done and brought the expertise in through this journey. So as far as the data related issues were concerned, when I came in here, the biggest conversation or the key word that I heard was trust, right? And I think I've elaborated that very well to you guys as part of our relationship is people don't just trust our data. And for whatever reason that may be, right? And so I think that was the key element of bringing that value of trust back. And I think it's very important for specifically for me, because the way I look at it based on my history and my experience is you do 9 out of the 10 right and the one wrong, the nine's a wash, right? And so that's the value of trust that we wanted to bring back to our community, our members, our partners, which are our franchise partners.
Excellent. And speaking of franchise partners, Burn Boot Camp is a franchise. So can you talk a little bit just to explain sort of who the audience was when you talk about lack of trust? What were the different audiences that you had to worry about in terms of maintaining that trust?
That's correct. And so we are a franchise, and we have roughly around 350 physical brick and mortar locations right now across the United States, and we are growing pretty fast and rapidly, as you would be aware of. And when we brought you guys into the mix from a project perspective, there were two parts to it initially, right? Is one was, I'm not talking about the technical architecture, more importantly, was the business architecture project that we embarked on, right? Is to understand the pain points where the trust issues lie. So you guys came in, you guys did all the business architecture, built all the use cases, discussed that with all our key franchise partners who are part of that project, and heard their pain and their problems from a trust standpoint. And I think then you guys came back and said, here are certain things that we need to do, at least from the get-go, to bring the trust factor back into an organized manner.
What were the impacts of that lack of trust? Was there a lot of manual effort taking place, or what did you have reporting that was not being used? Sort of what pain was being felt?
I think it was commingled in my personal observation. It was, yes, it was not used correctly. The data was not presented correctly, if you will. And then obviously it's just a general norm of, we've been using the system of yours. We don't like it anymore. We don't trust it. We're going to just go back to the source, which is mind body, if you will, right? And we're going to do our own analysis as a bespoke organization from every franchise partner location, if you will. And that's where you guys came in, right, to help us out.
Yeah, and MindBody being the point of sale system that you use. So what you're saying is that these franchise partners were just sort of going back and doing their own reporting in their own way, probably manual, as opposed to using the centralized reporting that you had set up at the time.
That is correct. That is correct. I mean, there were a few of them, they were using it and they didn't believe in it. And then few of them, and some of them probably, I would say, wanted to use their own kind of mindset in terms of building their own reporting and analytics, which they thought which was more valid than what we presented to them from a solution standpoint.
And I know Burn has grown very, very rapidly. Do you think that growth was one of the reasons that there were these issues?
It could be both, I would say. Yeah, I mean, growth always creates change, and change creates a rapid speed for things to be implemented, if you will. And you exactly know where I'm going with that. But yes, I think it's again, and the answer to that is yes, both would be true.
And you mentioned that there were some places where the data was wrong. What kinds of accuracy issues were you facing at that time?
Well, in my mind, I would say there were two things, right? First of all, the requirement may not have been right, as an example. So we are building a solution or executing on a problem that may not give you the actual solution from a reporting standpoint, right? So I think where you guys came in and build the light governance model, if you will, for us was from a data dictionary standpoint, is like define your data elements. What are those data elements? Let's get to an alignment on what do you mean by, say, for example, a member ID. Are we all in alignment with that? And if that's the case, we present that as a value on the report. And that's what we did.
Actually, it's a really good point. So, in terms of definitions like that, it sounds like, and my recollection is that there were some inconsistencies in terms of what metrics different franchisees were using.
That is correct.
What would you say was important in moving towards being more consistent and trying to get everyone to use the same set of metrics?
Well, the first thing was to build the operational data store in my mind, right? Is you got a centralized, neutralized bucket of data, which is cleansed, right? And you have one source of truth across all these multiple systems, which were disparate and bespoke before. And now we're bringing this into a data warehouse, if you will. And from that, you can build any kind of reports and you can drop any more systems and pull them out as and when you need them, right? But you have one source of truth as opposed to having those multiple sources of truth coming into the BI platform that we had before.
Yeah, and I think I absolutely agree that that's a critical step to making having everyone use a consistent set of metrics. How do you make sure that everyone is sort of aware of what those metrics are and what the terms and definitions are that you've created?
I think it's a continuous learning curve, Jeff, in my mind, because as we continue to build more and more analytics on the platform that we have, or we choose to move to a different platform, it's not the conversation, but it's an educational process, right? It's an internal educational process. It's an external educational and a socialization process where you define internally what those metrics are, align with your stakeholders, and then educate that to your social community.
Yeah, and I mean, you do this across your operations because you have all sorts of areas in which you need to make sure that franchisees are educated. So, what types of efforts did you undertake, you as an organization, to get that message out?
Yeah, that's a great point. And we have multiple different tracks in terms of socializing and communicating. So we do that technically as well through, our operations teams. We communicate that one-on-one as well when people have complaints. We have forums, etc. So there are multiple different mechanisms from a media standpoint where we share, and I think we are very transparent as an organization to share as much upfront proactively. Now it's up to the consumer to basically absorb that, and then we can kind of help them absorb that. That's our job as well, right?
Absolutely. And then I want to make sure I'm sure we're going to talk about it more later on, but at the same time as addressing these data challenges, there was a whole related effort that was happening at the same time on the mobile side, correct?
That is correct.
And what were the drivers behind that? What was really the impetus for creating a mobile application?
So my visionary co-founder, Devin Klein, he always wanted to have a mobile app. And that's one of the reasons I'm here at Burn. And we spent, including you guys, and thank you for the partnership again, we spent a year and a half, just kind of getting us as a team together, right? And so we wanted to make sure that, first of all, the mobile app was just the front end of it, right? But the key is controlling the data that's presented on the mobile app. So we control our own destiny in some shape or form, which we do today, as we know, right? As opposed to relying on third-party organizations, and then you're just at the mercy of those organizations to help you out based on the SLAs that we've signed on contractually, if you will. And so, and then we have the ability to build our own experience for our own members from a community perspective, right? And we can do it at our pace, at the speed and the frequency that we would like to share those experiences with our members, which are our customers.
It was really about sort of taking control of your data and sort of your forward journey in terms of where you wanted and where you and Devin and Morgan wanted to take the organization.
From a digital perspective, that's absolutely right.
How did that effort align with the data analytic effort happening at the same time?
It was a challenge. You exactly know it was a challenge for all of us because we had a crunch timeline. We had that big of a scope. We had all these different events. We had a summit in between where we appreciated you guys joining us there as well in Denver, and where Devin got on stage and presented that October, this is coming on live. And, the two things that I see is these two parallel tracks was pretty eye-opening for me personally from a professional standpoint, where I learned a lot in terms of, The app is one side of it, which is the consumer facing side or the member journey facing side. But the data is as equally important, both for our franchise partners, our internal finance, operational people, our leadership, from an executive dashboard reporting standpoint, where you guys kind of help us drive those specific reports that we needed, which is fantastic. I look at them every morning at 6 o'clock when they show up. So I appreciate that again.
Well, so yeah, so thank you, Ashwin, for joining me today. And everyone, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thanks very much.
Thank you.